Thanksgiving dinner, 6 years ago. Cranberry sauce, tension, and a side of casual humiliation. I remember every detail, not because it was special, but because it was the last time I let them speak to me like that. We were all at my parents' place, as usual. My sister Paige had flown in from New York, where she was, at the time, a rising, marketing genius, at some mid-size firm with a ping-pong table in the lobby. My brother Matt had just finished his MBA, top of his class, of course. And me? Well, I had dropped out of college 3 months earlier. And no one had let me forget it. So, what exactly do you do now? Paige asked, her voice sweet but soaked in smug. Are you still taking a gap year? Matt chuckled under his breath. Gap year? It's been a gap life. My mom gave them both that performative half-smile. Not disapproval, amusement. Like I was the family sitcom. The lovable failure they'd adopted out of pity. I work, I said, stabbing a green bean with my fork. Freelancing. Some software gigs. Contract work. My dad, who hadn't looked up from carving the turkey, scoffed. You were always good with computers. Shame you couldn't finish what you started. Shame. That was the flavor of every holiday with them. Better than gravy. Went down bitter, stuck in your throat. I smiled, not because I was okay, but because it was the only defense I had left. If I let the mask slip, they'd see what their words did to me. And I wouldn't give them that satisfaction. Freelancing, huh? Paige said, sipping her overpriced wine. Must be nice to not have any real stress. Real stress? I echoed, eyes narrowing. Right. Because project deadlines and client payments aren't real. She waved it off. You know what I mean. You don't have a boss. You don't have structure. Or a degree, Matt added helpfully, like he was correcting a spreadsheet. That's kind of a big one. That was when my mother chimed in. The final blow. Sweetheart, she said, placing a hand over mine. We just want what's best for you. But you have to admit, you've fallen behind. Fallen behind. That phrase lodged itself in my ribs. Fallen behind what? The pedestal Matt was perched on? Paige's LinkedIn brag reel? The GPA scoreboard they kept in their heads? I stood up. No shouting. No slamming doors. Just silence and gravity. My chair scraped back. My plate was still half full. I'm heading out, I said. Oh, come on, my dad grunted. We're just having a conversation. No, I said. You're having a roast. I'm just the punchline. Paige laughed. God, you're so dramatic. That's your real job, huh? I didn't look back. Not even when my mom called after me with that fake concern. Honey, wait. I grabbed my jacket, walked down the driveway, and didn't stop until I hit the bus stop 5 blocks away. It was raining. I didn't have an umbrella. But it felt cleaner out there than inside that house. They thought I was done. They thought I'd drift. But what they didn't know, couldn't know, was that I had something they didn't. Silence. They had praise and back pats and gold stars. I had hunger. And hunger works harder. I didn't leave a note. Didn't pack much either. A laptop. A backpack. A USB drive with half-finished code and an idea no one believed in, yet. I rented a shoebox apartment with 2 roommates I met online through a freelancing Discord server. One was obsessed with front-end perfection. The other slept under his desk and named his functions after Lord of the Rings characters. I liked them. They didn't care about college degrees or family prestige, only clean code and whether you delivered. Rent was $385 a month. We split groceries and argued about bandwidth. My bed was an air mattress that deflated every 2 hours like it was giving up on me. I ate toast and boiled eggs until the toaster caught fire. Meanwhile, I was building. We were designing an internal ops tool, lean, modular, affordable. Something that mid-sized companies could implement without 6 months of consultant nonsense. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't a unicorn. But it solved the real problem. I wasn't aiming to impress. I was aiming to disrupt. At night, while my roommates gamed or doom-scrolled Twitter, I buried myself in test cases and cold emails. I reached out to real estate firms, logistics teams, even local dentist chains. Anyone that juggled people, paperwork, and platforms. 9 out of 10 ignored me. But one didn't. A small warehousing firm in Arizona, 50 employees, old-school managers, still tracking inventory in Excel. They signed a 6-month trial. I worked through the weekend without sleep, patching bugs and pushing updates until they were happy. That contract turned into 2. Then 5. By year 2, we'd signed 30 clients. And suddenly, I had money. Not mansion money. But office space and a coffee machine money. We called the company Obsidian Ops. Sharp, quiet, black as revenge. Our tagline? We fix what bloated software breaks. I still didn't post online. Didn't brag. I was a ghost to my family. No birthday calls, no. How are you doing? Texts. I watched them from afar. Occasionally I'd click on Paige's Instagram out of morbid curiosity. Gym selfies. Cappuccinos. Conference panels where she tagged vague buzzwords like #synergy and #team goals. Then, one night while scouting for enterprise leads on LinkedIn, I saw it. Paige K. Strategy lead at Everton Systems. I blinked. Everton? That name sounded familiar. Click the company. Medium-sized SaaS firm. Stagnant reviews. Stock photo website. Big enough to matter, small enough to screw up. Then I saw another name. Matt K. Development Finance Everton. I leaned back, lips slowly curling. Both of them, at the same company? I cross-checked. Yup. Brother and sister, right there on the org chart, blissfully unaware their dropout brother was now the founder of a direct competitor. But that wasn't even the best part. Buried in Everton's investor updates, public if you knew where to look, were details about operational restructuring and a call for outside tech partnerships. In other words, they were bleeding. And I had the cure. Or more accurately, the replacement. That night, I stayed up planning. Not out of rage. Not out of spite. Out of precision. They thought I was a dropout. I was about to become their off-ramp. If you spend enough time digging through outdated investor PDFs and Slack-leaked earnings decks, you can spot a dying company by its scent. Everton reeked. Their software was bloated. Their licensing model made no sense. Their customer churn had doubled in under 12 months, and the board had just quietly replaced the COO, not with a visionary, but with a cost-cutter. That's the tech world's version of a hospice nurse. On paper, they were still viable. In practice, they were holding the steering wheel with one hand and Googling how to stop hemorrhaging clients with the other. And both my siblings worked there. It was almost too poetic to believe. Paige, the high and mighty brand voice expert, was now repackaging a dying product. Matt, the number-crunching prodigy, was working on budgets for a ship taking on water. I could have sat back and watched. But I didn't. Instead, I made a call. Obsidian had cash in the bank. Not billions. But enough. We had healthy revenue, loyal contracts, and 2 enterprise deals about to close. The timing was perfect. I reached out to a boutique acquisition firm we'd spoken to once before. Faceless middlemen who knew how to whisper interest without revealing intent. I want in, I told them. Minority stake. Strategic angle. And under what entity name? They asked. I gave them one of our shells. A quiet Delaware LLC with no obvious ties to me. I didn't need anyone connecting dots just yet. Within 3 weeks, the report came back. Everton was shopping for partners. Quietly. They were open to outside tech solutions. Hell, they were begging for them. Their current ops software had failed a security audit, and 2 clients had already bounced over it. We're working to streamline integrations, one investor memo said. Translation, we're panicking. So we sent a pitch, indirectly. Obsidian presented through a third-party consultancy. Our branding removed. Our code rewrapped. Just another potential vendor in a list of saviors. And they bit hard. Within 6 weeks, we were in talks for onboarding. Tiered rollout. 3-month pilot. All under NDA. I walked into that meeting, virtually, with a different name, a different title, and a different voice. Not the dropout. Not the brother. Just the architect of the thing that would replace their failing system. The best part? Neither Paige nor Matt knew. They sat in those meetings nodding along, completely unaware the software they were praising came from the person they once mocked for not having a plan. I watched Matt take notes. Saw Paige smile when we presented the onboarding roadmap. I smiled too. But my smile meant something very different. Because while the pilot was underway, I made another move. I upped my stake. Still quiet. Still clean. A silent investor through our holding firm. Enough shares to get reports. Enough to be in the room, not physically, but on paper. That's all I needed. Inside access. I started tracking internal comms, hiring plans, org reshuffles. Matt's team was under review. Paige's department? Over budget and underperforming. My software was solving problems faster than they could justify their salaries. And soon, layoffs were coming. They wouldn't see it yet. But I would. And when the time came, I'd make sure I was in the room. It began like every other call. Faceless cameras, muted mics, a deck full of bullet points pretending to be strategy. But this time, there was something different. The names on the list weren't strangers. They were blood. Matt K., finance analyst. Paige K., strategy lead. My siblings. I stared at the screen, my index finger hovering over the documents. Approve, feel like I was swiping right on destiny. The head of HR, a man named Ben who never met me, was walking through the logistics of the downsizing. We believe the integration of Obsidian has accelerated efficiency across 3 departments. Finance, logistics, comms, all impacted. He clicked to the next slide. Phase 1, staff reductions. And there they were. Matt's department had been trimmed down by 70%. Obsidian's automated reporting tools meant his role was duplicated, unnecessary, slow. The same Matt who used to scoff at my little tech hustle now sat on a digital chopping block labeled low strategic retention. I said nothing. I didn't need to. Feedback from the transition team has been overwhelmingly positive. Ben continued. Comms is next. He paused. We're seeing a decline in deliverables from product marketing. A lot of it's overlapping with what Obsidian automates now. Frankly, it's become decorative. I didn't even flinch. Paige's team had been producing deck after deck for months, slideshows no one read, campaigns no one tracked. Our software had replaced the guesswork with real-time metrics, eliminating the need for fluff. In private group chats I could now read, executives mocked her department. One message simply said, "Why are we still paying Paige to regurgitate dashboard stats?" Another, "When Obsidian's installed company-wide, she's toast." Brutal. Efficient. Perfect. I remembered sitting at a family brunch years ago. I'd just picked up a new freelance contract, my first big one. I was proud. I mentioned it offhand between sips of cold coffee. Paige laughed. "Freelance means unemployed, right?" Matt added, "Well, maybe you'll stumble into something real eventually." They all laughed. Even Mom smiled. I didn't. Now, Matt was on a calendar invite titled Exit Interview, Friday at 2 p.m. And Paige? Monday morning. Same format. Different excuse. The board voted on the final list. I voted too. "Any objections?" someone asked. Silence. And then came approval. I stayed in the background. Investor B7, that was my alias on the cap table. No one questioned it. No one looked twice. When Matt received the call, I listened in. His voice was tight, polite. Shocked. "I just didn't realize I was on the radar," he said. The HR rep gave the same speech they practiced a dozen times that week. Matt thanked them, actually thanked them, for The opportunity to contribute. I stared at the monitor, remembering every time he told me I lived in fantasy. He was still polite, still professional, even as his job evaporated. And Paige? Oh, she didn't go quietly. She ranted. This is a mistake. She snapped at the HR rep. You can't just cut people because of software. I'm part of this brand. The rep didn't flinch. We appreciate your service, but the decision is final. She called it insulting. She wanted a personal meeting with the COO. She never got one. The next day, her access was revoked. I watched her LinkedIn update go live that afternoon. Open to work. She didn't post a reason. Just a curated, carefully worded status. The same energy she used to mock me for not knowing how to play the game. I smiled. She was finally playing my game now. And I held the controller. I named the account Carter Ashwell. Generic. Respectable. Sounded like a guy who wore cologne and had too many blazers. I made him a tech recruiter based in Austin. Mid-senior level. Just enough mutual connections to pass the sniff test. Then I started browsing. Matt had already overhauled his LinkedIn. Gone was the smug bio about leading scalable transformation strategies. Replaced now with humble brags and soft desperation. Looking forward to new opportunities in financial analytics and SaaS expansion. Open to relocation. Translation: please, someone give me a desk. Paige? She was subtler. She posted thought pieces, 5-paragraph motivational rants no one asked for. Sometimes, losing a title gives you back your voice. She got a lot of likes. All from former interns and distant friends pretending to care. I waited 2 days. Then Carter Ashwell endorsed them. Skills: budget forecasting white heavy checkmark. Cross-functional communication white heavy checkmark. Brand identity management white heavy checkmark. All 3 got the blue thumbs up from a stranger they never met. Then I took it a step further. Carter messaged Matt. Hey Matt, saw your recent post. You've got a strong background, especially in finance ops. A client of mine might be hiring soon. Mind if I keep you on file? Matt replied in 20 minutes. Absolutely, Carter. Really appreciate the outreach. Things have been interesting lately. Happy to chat anytime. Interesting. Right. I could practically hear the tightness in his throat. Carter messaged Paige too. Hi Paige, your posts are inspiring. I work with several tech-forward brands seeking modern voice leadership. Would love to connect if you're exploring new paths. Scene. No reply for 24 hours. Then she wrote. Hi Carter, thank you. I'm definitely open to conversations that align with my values and strategic direction. I almost laughed. That meant, yes, but only if the money's right. It was surreal. My siblings were opening up to a complete stranger more than they ever opened up to me. Carter Ashwell endorsed them 3 more times that week. He commented on Paige's post. This is exactly the kind of leadership the industry needs. He liked Matt's shared article about economic downturns. Great insight, Matt. They never suspected a thing. Carter had no malice. No edge. Just vague praise and corporate warmth. The kind of guy who eats salad out of a jar and believes in synergy. I kept the game going. Not because I needed to. Because they did. Because I wanted them to feel the paranoia. Who was Carter? Why did he care? Was he real? Was he watching? I imagined them Googling his name at 2 a.m. scanning mutuals. Reading and rereading his messages. That's the kind of revenge no flame war delivers. It's not the punch that leaves a bruise. It's the whisper that makes them look over their shoulder in the dark. They'd taken so much from me growing up: confidence, dignity, my sense of worth. Now I was feeding it back to them in sugar-coated teaspoons. Smiling. Waiting. I didn't want to destroy them. Not yet. I wanted them to feel what I felt when they laughed across that Thanksgiving table. Uncertainty. Doubt. The creeping fear that the world is moving around you, and you're no longer sure who's pulling the strings. It was a Sunday afternoon when I got the message. From Mom. No emojis. No exclamation marks. Just, "We're having a family emergency. Please come home." It was the first direct message I'd received from her in over a year. I stared at it for a while. Could have ignored it. Could have sent back, "New number, who dis?" But something in me wanted to see it. Not for them. For the closure. I didn't respond right away. I packed my laptop. Loaded a file I'd been building for months, something between a digital resume and a case study. I named it The Disappointment, v1.pptx. The next morning I showed up. Same driveway. Same sagging porch. Same peeling paint and garden gnome with a broken hat. Paige's car was there. Matt's too. I stepped inside without knocking. The living room was crowded. Everyone was there. Mom. Dad. Matt red-eyed. Paige arms crossed. A few extended family members I hadn't seen since high school. It felt like an intervention. Or a courtroom. "You came," Mom said, sounding surprised. "I was curious," I replied. "So, who died?" Silence. No one had. But apparently something worse had happened. Matt couldn't find work. Paige was being iced out of every opportunity she touched. Rumors. Bad references. "Corporate sabotage," she called it. "It's like someone's targeting us," Matt said. "Every time we get close to a new job, something slips. A bad whisper. A sudden change. It's weird." I nodded. Weird indeed. Dad cleared his throat. "Your sister's reputation is being damaged. And your brother's name is being dragged. You think I'm behind it?" I asked, voice calm. They didn't answer. Paige just glared. Mom finally stepped in. "We know things haven't been perfect between you all. But this is bigger. We need to come together. Support each other. This family's falling apart." Now that made me laugh. "Falling apart?" I repeated. "You think this started last month?" I pulled the laptop from my bag. Plugged in the HDMI cable to the TV. The screen flickered to life. Slide 1. A photo of 19-year-old me, underweight, tired-eyed, working 2 screens in a moldy basement apartment. "This was me when you all said I was wasting my life," I said. When Matt told people I'd probably move back in within the year. When Paige joked about me being one of those guys who tries to build an app no one wants. Click. Slide 2. A chart. Obsidian Ops. Growth curve. Revenue. Acquisition footprint. "This is the app no one wanted," I said. "It now supports 64 companies in 3 countries. Generates 7 figures in annual revenue. It also replaced the internal systems at your former employer." Matt shifted. Paige narrowed her eyes. Click. Slide 3. Org chart. Layoff schedule. Redacted names. Dates. Timestamps. "This is the document where your names were recommended for removal. Guess who had voting rights on that board?" Nobody spoke. Click. Slide 4. A screenshot of Carter Ashwell's fake LinkedIn page. "And this is the recruiter you've been messaging." "That's me too." Silence. A cold, sprawling silence. I closed the laptop. "You didn't invite me here for help," I said. "You invited me here to fix a mess I didn't cause." "You've lost your mind," Dad muttered. "No," I said, standing up. "I've found it. And for once, I'm using it for myself." Paige stood. "So what now? You expect us to thank you? To apologize?" "No," I replied, heading for the door. "I expect nothing. That's the difference between me and you." And then I left. Again. But this time, I wasn't walking away empty-handed. I left them with the truth. And a screen full of receipts. The message came late, 1:12 a.m. From Mom. "I know you're angry. I understand more now than I ever did. But please, is there a way back from this? Can we be a family again? I stared at it for 10 minutes. My first instinct was silence. But I'd already done that for years. And silence had done its job. So I answered, "Depends what kind of family you're trying to be." She didn't respond right away. The next morning, she followed up. "Your sister's looking at part-time work. Your brother is moving in with friends. Your dad hasn't said much, but I can tell he's not sleeping. I just want my children to be okay." I didn't answer that one. Not because I didn't care, but because I'd already been their collateral. Their scapegoat. Their cautionary tale. They were finally tasting what they'd fed me for years, being on the outside. 3 days passed. Then Paige emailed me. Yes, emailed. A long message. Structured. Formal. Like a resignation letter dressed as an apology. She said she didn't know it was me. That she didn't connect the dots. That the Obsidian rollout was actually kind of impressive. She didn't say sorry. She said, "If we ever speak again, I'll do it as an equal. That's all I can offer." Matt sent a text too. Shorter. "You win. I don't know what else to say. I wouldn't have survived what you did. Guess you're stronger than I gave you credit for." No bitterness. No begging. Just honesty. And then came the call from Dad. I let it go to voicemail. "You made your point. You got your revenge. But if you think that fixes anything, you're wrong. You burned a bridge. And you'll regret it." Click. "No. I'm proud of you." "No. I was wrong." Just more smoke. I could have responded. Instead, I wrote a letter. Not for him. For Mom. I sent it in the mail, hand-signed, no return address. "Mom, you asked if we could be a family again. I think what you mean is, can we forget what happened? The answer is no. But here's what we can do. You stop pretending I was never good enough. You stop expecting me to fix what I didn't break. You stop rewriting history to make my success seem sudden, when it was built brick by brick in silence while you watched everyone else. And in return, I'll call on your birthday. I'll send updates. Maybe, one day, I'll even show up for Christmas. But it will be on my terms. Because family isn't a lifeline you throw when you're drowning. It's something you protect before the storm. You didn't. Now you live with the tide. Me. I don't know if she cried. I don't know if she read it out loud. I just know she replied with a photo, me, at 12 years old, in the backyard, holding a circuit board and smiling. Captioned, "I wish I'd paid more attention." That was it. No apologies. No explanations. But maybe a beginning. The office sits on the 38th floor of a glass and steel tower overlooking the river. I come in twice a week. Just enough to feel connected. Not enough to be distracted. The receptionist smiles when I pass. She doesn't know the full story. Neither do the junior devs, the interns, or even some of the VPs. To them, I'm just the founder who prefers hoodies to suits and never raises his voice in meetings. Perfect. I built it to run without me. And it does. Clean. Modular. Self-repairing. Obsidian Ops is everything I wasn't once. Respected. Profitable. Unshakable. A few weeks ago, I got lunch with an old college roommate. He didn't finish either. But unlike me, he went back. "You ever think about going back?" he asked, biting into his sandwich. "Finishing the degree?" I shook my head. "I don't need a paper to prove what I already built." He nodded. "Still, wouldn't it be nice? Show 'em you made it the right way?" I smiled. See, that's the thing. There is no right way. There's the loud way. The pretty way. The LinkedIn way. And then there's the real way. The painful, invisible, brutal way. Mine. I didn't make it despite being a dropout. I made it because I dropped out of the script they handed me. The one where Matt was the genius. Paige was the star. And I was the glitch. I rewrote it. From scratch. Now, They don't talk much. Paige has taken a consulting gig 2 cities over. Still posting thought leader fluff, still trying to own a voice she never built. Matt's quieter. Works part-time doing freelance data modeling. He hasn't updated his profile in months. Mom sends me texts once in a while. No big messages. Just things like, thinking of you, and saw your name in an article, proud. Dad doesn't message at all. Fine. The view from this office doesn't need his approval. Sometimes I hear they still call me a dropout at family events. In hushed tones. With awkward chuckles. Like it softens the truth. Let them. Dropout sounds just fine from the penthouse.